Potash panels. Frontiers of Rock Art Analysis. Compiled and presented by yours truly, Rory Paul Tyler. The Potash Panels on State Highway 279, Potash Road, has one of the most visited rock art collections in the Moab area. For 30 years, I have heard a parade of guides add their bits and pieces to the possible meanings and indelible mysteries these images represent. I never heard a story that stuck with me. I was once among these avuncular purveyors of unsustainable allegation until I began to develop a system of rock art interpretation in Moab's Mill Creek, starting in 1997. Between 1997 and 2019, I developed a sort of interpretive dictionary for Moab's basket maker Indian art. I call it the Kodakan. At the same time, I began applying the Kodakan's growing tool set, derived in large part from Mill Creek Canyon art, to an analysis of the same Mill Creek Canyon art. I call this document Game Drive. Here's the cover sheet. Game Drive comprises over 1,400 screens, over 1,000 photos, hundreds of graphs, charts, tables, and at least 8 appendices. The Potash Panels slideshow is my second attempt to analyze a rock art site using the Kodakan and the tools, interpretations, and techniques, albeit with less detail. Applying the Kodakan to a second location demonstrates its repeatability and reliability, characteristics required in a scientific demonstration. To my knowledge, a reliable scientific template for analyzing rock art has never existed before. On with the show. The Potash Panels complex includes 4 separate rock art sites along a 2-mile stretch of Potash Road. Starting on the west are the Poison Spider Mesa panels. Moving east are the Oaks site panels near the bottom of the Polka Dot Trailhead, followed by the Bear Panel and the Potash Panel furthest east. The rock art highlights the topography and how it functioned in the physical, metaphysical, and symbolic domains of ancient hunts and hunting magic. According to the rock art, the ancients organized game drives on Poison Spider Mesa for thousands of years. Correct use of the topography was critical to a successful hunt. This combination of topography and behavior is represented both in the location and the symbolism of the art itself. The phrase game drive is something of a misnomer. Prepared hunt describes such activity more accurately. Much of the effort in a game drive involved using topography and appraised natural behavior to the hunter's advantage. Poison Spider Mesa is ideal for bighorns, and due to the cliffs that border the mesa, access to the river is limited. The best access is a small canyon near the Poison Spider trailhead. There are several rock art panels at this location. An entire bighorn herd gathers on the matriarch's home range during the mating season. In this case, Poison Spider Mesa is the home range. Bighorns typically go for water every 2 or 3 days. The Poison Spider trailhead is the best way off the mesa to the river. The hunters would be ready. There's that little canyon where you can get down the river, and then about 1.5 miles to get up to the cul-de-sac at the Potash Panel. Once the sheep left the mesa, they would be herded or guided upstream to an inescapable cul-de-sac, the location of the Potash Panel. On a chosen day, once the bighorns had come off the mesa, the hunters would have guided them upstream. There, the river and cliffs, aided by fences, corrals, gates, and groups of hand-holding hunters, would trap the sheep. A successful game drive might only happen once in a generation. It could take that long for a herd to recover its numbers. If there was a generation between hunts, this adds merit to hypotheses about the mnemonic guidance rock art may have provided to a people's culture. This view is from the Poison Spider trailhead, looking upstream towards the Potash Panel. The only exit through the cliffs on the left is at the Polka Dot Trail, a mile ahead. The sheep would know this, and so would the hunters. Big hunts were typically held in the fall when the entire herd was gathered for the mating season. In this photo, the area to the right would have been a maze of sandbars and willow thickets all the way to the river. It was not preferred bighorn habitat. It is likely that the sheep heading upstream would stay closer to the wall on the left and avoid the tangle in the river bottoms. This small canyon leads to the top of the mesa. There are dinosaur tracks and rock art on the point above the entrance to the canyon. There's the way out, and there is more rock art and more dinosaur tracks on the wall up there. Much of the art at Poison Spider is obscured by vandalism, but a fairly typical array of anthropomorphs, zoomorphs, and phantomorphs are basket maker style. Some hunters carry the bow and arrow, indicating that they were made in the basket maker 3 times 300 AD to 800 AD. A phantomorph is a word I coined for any creature with a fantastic and impossible morphology or body type, like this Push Me Pull Ya, one of several at Poison Spider Mesa. Some more Poison Spider figures, not too much to tell you anything. At large sites, the oldest art often occupies the most critical spaces. More recent art is often on the margins or on another panel altogether. On the Potash Road, the Potash Panel has the oldest images and occupies the most critical and prestigious space. These glyphs at the Poison Spider trailhead are youthful by comparison. Reinforcing this concept are bow and arrow figures. The bow and arrow did not appear in this region until the time of the Basket Maker 2, Basket Maker 3 transition, 300 to 500 AD. These glyphs are no match for the antiquity exhibited by the Potash Panel a mile away. A small, short-eared, long-tailed predator upper left, and there is another bow and arrow in the center of this panel. Heading upstream, there is no exit through the cliffs. The Oaks Panels site touches the road ahead on the left, and the Polka Dot Trail is just beyond the Oaks. The river reaches the wall at the Oaks site. This site includes at least 4 outstanding rock art panels lurking in the brush on the left. This rock art is replete with predatory and hunting symbolism. This makes sense as this is a topographical beginning of a cul-de-sac formed where the cliff and the river meet. A good place for a big trap. There are several slots leading Up and to the left, but only one, the polka dot trail goes through the mesa. This wall is the west end of the site, nearest the bear. This panel includes a number of interpreted symbols. Detailed reasons for these interpretations can be found in the Codicon. Otherwise, you'll have to take my word for it. Much of the site's art was made during the Basket Maker 2 and Basket Maker 3 times 500 BC to 900 AD. This well-defined time horizon is useful in identifying eras of artistic and social change. Though badly marred, the concentric circles, snake-like totem, and fine-lined trap man icon present an impressive tableau at this end of the Oaks site. The dense lining and split-tip headdress indicate trapping energy. This particular trap man has been humanized or anthropomorphized by a head and 2 legs. Many trap man images use a set of non-representational design elements and are not anthropomorphized. They are still, however, trap man. Below is a line of handholders. Handholders act like other containment and hunting lines, zigzag, wavy, and so on, while adding an overtly human element to the design's fundamental intent of containing and capturing the prey. These handholders wear headdresses with a single prominent appendage. Their patina is old. This suggests that they are Basket Maker 2, 500 BC to 500 AD. The large track on the right has distinct claw marks for each tined toe and a segmented heel. These are diagnostic design elements in a Basket Maker 2 predator track. It has a set of vestigial legs, suggesting an anthropomorphic element. These kinds of legs appear on other similar glyphs, suggesting a pattern, but I don't know what it might represent. There you can see the vestigial legs, accompanied by a line of hand holders. This legged track in Mill Creek has a Basket Maker necklace above it, suggesting an entire anthropomorph was painted here using the predator track design elements as a template. big track, the figure to its left, the device to the right, a sheep and a small trap man all have lighter patina, suggesting more recent placement. Themes that are repeated at this and other nearby sites include trap man, dense lining, predator tracks, phantomorphs, spirit sheep, handholders, and predatory birds. More predator tracks line the wall, apparently causing a disturbance among some of the nearby sheep, or the one on the left anyway. There are two predator tracks separated by a dotted line, and the sheep on the left looks like he's having problems. Basket maker art can be quite fanciful, often combining supernatural attributes to the image. I call such fanciful creatures phantomorphs, comprising fantastic morphology. An array of phantomorphic creatures like this elegant eight-legged push-me-pull-you inhabit these walls, indicating that magical design elements were perceived of as part of the site's fundamental character. The confusing array of tracks on the left may be an expression of the push-me-pull-you zoomorph's physical manifestations of indecision and uncertainty, being of two minds, so to speak. This is speculation. Just below the push-me-pull-you tableau is this more decisive image. It includes dense fence-like horns and large spirit sheep on a phantomorphic sheep left. Another sheep is being shot by a bow and arrow, ostensibly around the time of the Basket Maker 2, Basket Maker 3 transition. Nearby, another striped archer aims at a phantomorphic sheep and keeps company with a strange zoomorph and a bird of prey. A large heron watches the hunters at work along the river's edge. The heron's hunting acumen and advice would be valuable totems for a human hunter. Further along the wall, a large six-toed footglyph dominates a diverse array of animal and linear figures. An unusual set of concentric circles are intriguing but enigmatic. The line of sheep have their feet on backwards. A fantastically horned spirit sheep, right, watches from behind a small, intensely executed barrier. This large foot and geometric totem may be part of an equinox display. This is something that needs to be studied. The reverse feet design element on the sheep is unusual but not unknown on hunting panels. It's as if the sheep were reluctant about continuing in the direction they are headed, perhaps of two minds as to where to go. Maybe, like the confusing tracks at the Push Me, Pull You, this is an artistic illustration of the uncertainty felt by the sheep at this point in the hunt. This, too, is speculation. The intensely lined vertical barrier on the right is a typical illustration of containment intent. A multi-horned spirit sheep watches from beyond the barrier. This comprises a fairly typical hunting magic tableau. There's the barrier and the spirit sheep watching from behind. There is a fissure here in the canyon, but it is impassable. Moving upstream, there is a small trapman glyph down on the lower right, just before the only slot in this wall that offers convenient exit from the canyon. This trapman is also anthropomorphized by a head and legs. The long neck on the sheep probably indicates supernatural qualities. This slot goes past a rock art habitation site called Polka Dot Man about halfway to the top of Poison Spider Mesa. There's the way up. It would not be too hard to defend from anything. And let's go way up. The panel at the Polka Dot Man site seems more sedate than the art along the river. The panel may react with the equinox sunrise, but that remains to be studied. The next large panel is the bear panel. This small panel comes first. The bow and arrow marks the transition between the Basket Maker 2 and Basket Maker 3. These sheep look like they were there somewhat before the archer. Here is the very impressive bear panel. The bear panel strikes me as an anomaly, a depiction of an actual event when Basket Maker 3 archers repelled the attacks of a marauding bear. This panel appears to have little in common with the hunting themes distributed among the other Potash panels. The bear is pecked on top of an earlier sheep image. The bow and arrow place the main image in Basket Maker 3 times, circa 300 to 800 AD. The river meets the cliffs at the Potash panel, 100 yards upstream. The road was built in the early 1950s, and the main rock art panels were at the top of large gravel bars that were torn apart for the road. This left many of the panels high above the road grade and protected them from vandalism. The white area marks where the gravel bar was removed. The main panels were along the top of the former gravel bar. The best spot for art is the darkly patinated area above the former gravel bar. It is here the oldest and most intense art was placed. It is here my examination of this part of the site begins. On the right is the basket panel, on the left the chorale panel. The blue stars mark the two oldest panels. A gallery of newer, more or less unaffiliated glyphs is on the narrow facet between them. Based on the darkness and depth of the patina inside these glyphs, this is the oldest art in the Potash complex, by far. The basket panel has a fence line ending at a deep crack in the rock wall. The depth and darkness of the patina attest to the panel's antiquity. The sheep are entirely fenced in and heading for the abyss. The upper part of the basket panel is dominated by a large basket, a petroglyph handprint, and an enigmatic hunting marker. The dark patina in the basket glyph is very old. A basket at the end of the game drive site must be examined as a potential hunting totem. The handprint, the petroglyph, appears to be newer than the basket. Handprint petroglyphs are fairly rare in this region. This might be a repack of an earlier glyph. In any case, it is enigmatic. The real surprise for me was at the very bottom of the basket. The patina indicates that the small bug-like icon lower left is contemporary to the basket and a fence. In other words, it is very old also. I have seen similar icons on many hunting panels in the region, leading me to posit some sort of use or use pattern associated with the basic design. I did not realize its antiquity, its symbolic durability, until now compiling this show. A similar design appears on the adjacent Chorale Panel. I call it Le Bug. What it might symbolize is beyond me. However, its association with hunting magic is indelible. Its age appears to match the fence line and basket. I would guess early basket maker 2 origins, 500 BC, or even earlier. There's a chance that some of these glyphs have been here since late Archaic days, circa 2000 to 4000 BC. The main panel is to the left. I call this the Chorale Panel just for the sake of clarity when discussing it. The shape of the largest corral on the Chorale Panel and the shape of Poison Spider Mesa are similar. I don't generally ascribe to map interpretations, but this one is suspicious. Le Bug is in the midst of the melee, along with predator tracks, fence lines, corrals, split tips, hunters, and trapped sheep. The figures along the top have the darkest patina of any glyphs at the site, suggesting that they were the early actors in this tableau. The hunters have successfully captured and contained the sheep. Small predator tracks on the left reinforce the intent and the enactment. The large animated figure is intriguing. He has a counterpart a few feet to his left. He is also very animated, but what he is doing is unclear. My guess, being next to a predator track, is that he's throwing an addle-addle, but that is just a guess. The predator track has 7 toes and a very distinct claw mark for each toe. Here is a sheep in the Chorale panel. I have identified split tips, seen here on the Chorale, as powerful and prevalent trapping totems. Split tips appear regionally in many different contexts. I have also noticed a pattern on other hunting panels in the region, which includes the image of a small sheep sequestered under a large sheep. The small sheep may be protected by the large sheep, but given the ambient predatory intent of the site, it may represent the flock's sacrifice. I don't know what it represents, but here the image is again. This panel is directly across the river. The large sheep display common trapping designs on their legs, such as finely lined containment icons, and, in the second sheep, predator tracks instead of hooves. The reiteration of the sheep underneath design element suggests a set of well understood symbolic ensembles that could appear and be understood on any panel with similar themes. A sacrifice? A gift? Is it protective? Something else? Whatever it may represent, its affiliation with hunting designs is obvious. A narrow facet perpendicular to the two main panels has a collection of images. They do not seem to be in any order or array that adds to the meaning of the main panels. Based on patina, they all appear to be later additions. Art on the perpendicular facet does not seem to carry much information about the nearby imagery. The icons strike me as add-ons by individual artists and of indeterminate interpretive utility. At this point, the temporal placement of the panels divides into roughly 3 palettes. The first are the very old corral and basket maker panels. The second records an emphatic following of the Basket Maker 2 Basket Maker 3 transition and the introduction of bow and arrow technology into a society that was accustomed and acculturated to the atlatl. The third temporal palette is on the higher surfaces on this end of the wall, the west end. This art was made mostly after the Chorale and Basket Maker panels and before or at the beginning of the Basket Maker 3 efflorescence. And finally, on the west end of the wall, a motley mix of individual symbols, including temporally adrift reiterations of well-worn themes, such as spirit sheep and hand holders. In any case, these images do not seem to be integrated with other panels either as part of a coordinated artistic statement or as an essential symbolic icon. The abrupt and insistent appearance of bow and arrow and shield-bearing warriors, lower left, speaks to an abrupt changeover from the previously dominant atlatl culture. Other new styles were adopted along with the bow and arrow, including large headdresses, swinging ear ornaments, shields, and shield-like bodies. The transition from atlatl to bow and arrow took place between 300 and 500 AD and marks the transition from Basket Maker 2 to Basket Maker 3 cultural expressions. My observations lead me to think that this transition also entailed a movement of Basket Maker 3 settlers northward. Over the ensuing centuries, they shaped Basket Maker social markers into a distinct cultural identity, which we call Fremont. Basket maker expressions that remained current among the Fremont include a trend towards more elaborate personal decoration. For example, necklaces, headdresses, and large swinging ear ornaments. The Basket Maker 3 figures maintain the kind of active and energetic poses illustrated on the Chorale panel. More Basket Maker 3 figures appear, but they are not carrying weapons. 3 figures with the traditional cat-in-the-hat single appendage headdresses are trying out the new styles, big swinging ear ornaments, and round body shields. A 2-horned figure, upper left, appears to be sheep hunting with a bow and arrow. The social implications of changing weapons systems are vast. This style of Basket Maker 3 art appears elsewhere around Moab, notably the Moab man near the golf course. Nowhere else is the style so pronounced as at the Potash Panel. The energetic Moab man left shares many stylisms with figures on the Potash Panel. There were glyphs on the highest reachable wall when the gravel bar was still there. They hold patina and position of greater antiquity than the Basket Maker 3 glyphs down and to their right. Their designs and patinas in general seem to place them temporally after the Chorale and Basket Maker panels and before or at the beginning of the Basket Maker 3 era. These panels hold a number of interesting individual glyphs with various levels of repatination. The style of the 2 main figures resembles Basket Maker 3. The figure on the left has an unusual headdress. There is a chance that it is a variation of the bird head design imported from the San Juan Basin 100 miles to the south, but that is speculation. An authoritative figure holds a spear. To the right A rake head figure holds a shield. I have identified rake heads as being originally Basket Maker 2 figures. Although they were Basket Maker 2, they persisted even into Fremont times, perhaps. Thematically, the previous panel resembles this rake head spear shield conglomeration at a highly social site in Mill Creek's left-hand fork. This part of the panel includes older, more patinated glyphs. However, no pattern or narrative arc is evident among these designs. There are two long lines of handholders on this part of the wall. I have identified handholders as game drivers who were used as part of the containment strategy of a successful hunt. Many of the handholders wear a single appendage headdress that I associate with Moab's Basket Maker 2 hunters. A phalanx of coordinated hunters makes sense where they were implementing the final stages of a containment and capture hunting exercise. Perhaps the most, quote, Fremont, unquote, of the wall's glyphs is this ornate headdress. The bow and arrow identify it as Basket Maker 3 at the earliest. It could be a precursor to the northern migration. It could be a later figure introduced by a Fremont-influenced artist, but I doubt it, due to the general lack of definitive Fremont figures on these panels. These designs, next to the hand holders, are classic containment elements, but to whom or what they might be affiliated at this point is indiscernible. A small band of backpackers shows up to join the action. A good game drive could attract people from far and wide, and there was probably a regular schedule of drives that people moved to. The last area to examine is a west-facing facet at the west end of the site. As the first wall at the end of the drive, this facet holds several expected glyphs, including spirit sheep and handholders, typical attendees at a hunting incident. A great deal of the art, however, seems to be an unrelated amalgam of unreadable symbols. The meaning an artist imbued in any specific glyph has generally not been transmitted in any fashion. Spirit sheep, upper right, and handholders, center, are expected guests at such a juncture. Sometimes spirit sheep have fantastic morphology. Often, as here, it is their privileged position and aloof stance that identifies them. Spirit sheep often appear on the edge of a panel. They watch the hunt and ensure that the necessary rites, rituals, and covenants are being observed. The two spirit sheep at the top of this panel are perfectly positioned to see and judge the hunt. The hunters would obey the rules. They did not want to make the gods angry. Another set of game driving hand holders, lower left. There are at least 7 sets of hand holders among the potash panels. The sheep above the handholders is probably another spirit sheep. The story of the poison spider potash panels contains much more than immediately meets the eye. Anyone looking for a quick, easy place to explain away must look elsewhere.